Antwerp. So first, I'm gonna start just talking a little bit about numbers. When you talk about the port of Antwerp, I don't know if everybody knows, but like it's really, when you look at literature and studies, it's really well known because it's the second one, the biggest one in Europe, and just behind Rotterdam. And then I think it's important to look with the data from their own port and also the map. So it's basically 14,000 hectares. And then that means here on the right side, you're going to see the size of the port actually. So it's in one of my visits to the port, and then this information I couldn't find online, but the person presenting said that the port itself, the area, is 5 times the municipality of Antwerp. That actually is just here. The rest is the port. And then in terms of numbers, you say that has like 1,400 companies. It estimated that has like 160,000 around direct and indirect jobs. So it's plain clear why it's important, why it's in the studies. But then we go for the impacts of ports operation and what we found in the literature. And then we go with already know discussions, how like ports promote economic growth, the job creation behind it, the infrastructure development. That's not only the port, but like since the port is operating, you must build highway, transport. Indirectly, this might benefit the citizens and the community. And then we have also the negative impacts. Then we have like the social environmental impacts of the ports operation. You need to do a lot of dredging. Sometimes it's, and as we're gonna see on the case of Antwerp, it's area for endangered species. You have noise pollution, soil contamination, erosion, and then the continually operation actually is really, it impacts the local ecosystem as a whole. So the literature is trying to understand like the economic contributions, the social environmental impacts. The problem is that even though we have models for both of them, for the contributions and for the environmental threats, let's say as this, there's no standard methodology. So every methodology we see in like hard science, or even though they don't get a full picture. It really depends on the port, on the area, each change, and they are not global. And and with this in mind, with this context in mind, we see that actually there's more and more studies trying to see the impact, the local impact, because they are the ones that actually stay with the burden. And then here I'd like to bring the attention for this study of 2020 by Causevic. I'm sorry, I'm probably pronouncing their names wrong. But like in the study they made in a city port in Poland, they showed that like actually 97% of the benefits, direct benefits, stay with the national economy, and only 3% stay in the local level. And who are the main beneficiaries? Actually, it's the cargo shippers company. So this takes like a critical point for us to think about it. And then in the sense, I go for what, and like a little bit more in my part of like the study, that's the territorial transformations in the port of Antwerp. So I'm trying to do a little bit of historical, also looking at the expansions of the port. And then what happened, we see that mostly after Second World War was the biggest plan to expand the port, and then the port left from 1,400 hectares, and then it expanded for 10,000 hectares in the period of like 10 years. And then today it goes to the 14,000 that we saw before. But then it's interesting to see how this project goes, and then how it happened was just, it was led by state initiative, but then we need to remember that Belgium is a really divided in terms of competences country. So we really have a really important role of like the province, but also the municipalities. And then when you see the expansion of the port of Antwerp, it actually mean restructuring the whole province. So Antwerp actually aggregated part of the province. The port expand to East Flanders, that another province. And so like you see how the port itself actually goes and impacts the whole political landscape of the area as well. And then here you have that when consider, sorry, the expansions, you have, or the literature considered that Antwerp had actually a good development strategy. And in the literature, it said it was mostly because there was involved authorities and also the private parties. So in the sense, the port of Antwerp is not only a cargo port, it's also an industrial port with a lot of petrochemical and chemical industry. And it was in exactly this phase that the companies came to install in the port area. So that's why the land is not only the port, we need to consider the whole land, that's also for the industrial zone. And back then in the 60s, it's already brought up the question of like trying to make it more inclusive in terms of governance of structures, housing, environmental impacts. And then, but then, as we're gonna see, still back in the 60s to the 90s, actually, we still have a top-down planning approach, and we still have some excluded globes. So here I'm gonna portray a little bit from what you can find in the website of the port and how they portray the expansion and say, so you have phrases as was farming, mainly the area was farming, mainly composed of powders. And then you have here and then the port swallowed powder villages, and farmer sons found out as dockers, and multinational industry came. And then on the other hand, we also know villages needed to be demolished on the left bank as the area was only made up of powders. So it's a little bit kind of these words swallowing it, but it doesn't matter because it's just polders and farming. And then the farmers technically became dock workers. And then we don't know actually if this is true or not. Literature say it is, but like other part of literature say that in the 70s, actually, after this expansion, there was a economic background. And then the promised jobs and everything actually didn't come to light. So we have this on one side, and the other side is like no village needed to be demolished during the expansion of the port. And actually, this is true, but it is not true because of it came from the decision of the port authority or the authority. It came true actually because there was resistance from the local village and also resistance from the communities. And then here I say because there's the case of the village of Duo, and then I have here on the map on the right side, you can see where is Duo, and it still exists today and still like this. But in the expansion plan, actually, it was supposed to be a dock construct, as you can see in the image on the left here. And then what happens? The only reason why it was not constructed and the village was not demolished was because citizens got together and then they started to file cases in the court because Duo is also a historical site that happened. So they used the cultural heritage aspect of the city in order to try to avoid the construction of this dock particularly. And then actually this history of Duo goes since the 60s to nowadays. Like I'm looking to cases right now is still happening. And then until they decided they are not going to construct the dock there, and then they will do it on the other way, not getting the village itself. But the problem is like in this space where they were deciding if they were construct, and there was like the legal battles, right? So it was the citizens against the port authorities and everyone involved. So the thing like the village kind of disappeared. So residents didn't know if they would stay or not, or what would happen. So like you see that today the population of Dew is less than 20 people. And the numbers, according going through the years, it's changed from like 1,000 in the beginning, and then it drops, and then it goes again according to the like political decisions. And then I don't want to extend much because I know it's supposed to be brief and just to bring the conversation. In the port area, there's also overlaps with Natura 2000 for the EU protection and also the Directive of Bird Protection and Habitats Protection. So you have this overlapping of port, of environmental safety, strict environmental safeguards and constraints, technically to the port area. So this actually, it's really interesting to see because the port itself tells about how they are trying to talk with the companies to see to which extent what they should do or not to comply, right, with the Habitats Directive and the Natura 2000. The problem is, and then you see a study made for Shamli, Kazmi, and Van der Broek, that this area that was also compounded by polders, under the name of Natura 2000, they are also expropriated. And a lot of farmers at the time, they felt this feeling of green possession. So they were expropriated. They were not given, not necessarily they were working as dock workers. This just happened. And then, okay, it was not going to be the port. It's going to be the land compensation for the port within the Natura 2000 framework. But regardless of it, we can say it was, or at least the studies say it was a possession. So this takes me, and I'm gonna already try to close it up. So new initiative and what is changing. So you see that's a change in and how the Port of Antwerp try to talk about like the interaction of communities, citizens, and what the initiatives they are doing. So in this sense, it's really interesting to see there's like the Green Spark Route initiative and the partners that they have. And this actually is in the province of Do that I told and then just showed the case. So they got together many stakeholders to try to do collective management and planning of the area. And this took years. So this took this since the 60s and 90s. That was also really to come to fruit now. But one thing that I wanted to highlight here is also when you look at who are the stakeholders and who are, you still don't see civil society organization, or when you see it, they are mostly regards to environmental. So you don't have local citizen associations, and one absence that's really needed to highlight is the associations actually that was involved in the first cases of the expansion. Another initiative that I was going just to tell, and this is really new because when I started my PhD in 2023, I remember I go through the website and everything, and I haven't seen this Agricultural Innovation Fund. That's the port supporting farmers project. And it's really interesting to see because there's like these, as the port develop, one of the main stakeholders affected by it is the farmers, because where was the port was a farming originally area. And then until, as far as I knew, there was no kind of aid or support, even in 2003, and this is something new. And there were some strikes that happened when there was the new EU directive on farming and nitrogen. And one of the main arguments of the farmers of the region was why we're being targeted so heavily, whereas we don't have the same support as the port or the industries of the port. So you see a little bit of changing and they are allocated, but again, I want to bring the conversation of like who is included and who is excluded. And then I of course, I'm going to support myself on what's already being written. And then this study by Hen and Chambers 2021 is not about Antwerp per se, but it's in Germany. And then in Germany, it's also happening in Hamburg that decisions come like you always see top-down and involve limited participation for synthesis of minority stakeholders. And then on the other side, this really new study from Morans and Dunes. And then they do a survey in all main parts of ports in Flanders, in Belgium, to see about social impact, environmental impact, economic impact. And what they found that's most important in order to citizens support kind of ports operations is not economic impact, it's not environmental impact, it's actually the social impact. That means the local daily lives. What is changing? Access
One
to
more minute.
and then okay, and that's it basically. So that's what I wanted to. How I stop sharing here.
Perfect. I have three questions already prepared. So thank you so much, Adriane. It was very important to kick start with Adriane, who is about you're now in Tangier doing the research here in Morocco. So that's really great. So we will ask lots of questions. So we have two more presentations. One is about the biggest port in Europe. The next one, we have the biggest port in Africa, and we also have one port in Europe, which is Rula is gonna do that one. So Rula or Omar, who's gonna go first? The biggest port of Africa, or we stay in Europe for the next presentation and then go to Africa? So
I must admit, Senija, sorry, I must admit that I don't focus in a port. So I don't know if you want to finish with the ports first and then I come in.
Okay, brilliant. So then we do Omar first and then you. Are you okay with that? Brilliant. So let's then move from the biggest port of Europe to the biggest port in Africa.
Yes.
So I have great pleasure to introduce Omar, who is from Tangier Business School, and he's gonna give us some inquiries and some notes about Mediterranean ports located on the south side of the Mediterranean. We know so much about European perspective, but how it goes in the perspective of Morocco, of Africa, of North of Africa. So let's see how it goes.
Okay, just a moment to share, please.
Yeah, brilliant. So brilliant.
It's okay?
We can't see the presentation still, but probably it's going to come.
Pour ce que vivent les Gazaouis, vous avez le début d'une réponse, vous? On n'a peut-être pas envie de l'entendre, hein, la réponse, en fait.
Non, mais eux, bien sûr, ils parlent de l'Occident, parce que l'empathie, elle est...
Ailleurs.
Oui.
Est-ce que vous... Do you see my presentation? Or...
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Did you share it?
I will retry.
Please. Let's see how it goes.
Okay.
Just click on share. I guess it's not going to be a problem.
But it doesn't work.
Oh, then you can send it to me. Try it now. Try it now. Maybe it works now.
And now it's okay?
Yeah. Let's see. Did you try it now? Try it once more to share it.
Okay.
No?
I'm trying.
If no, you send it to me, and we'll get to Rola before.
Okay. And now?
Still no.
Oh.
So
I will send it to you.
You can send me an email, and in the meantime, let's see whether Rola is.
Okay. I will do that.
Yeah, please do so. And in the meantime, let's just see whether Rola's. This one works. some challenges in the connection between Rabat and Tangier. So in the meantime, yeah.
It's
Don't
done,
worry,
please, Senija, it's done.
It's plus. Yeah. So let's hear Rula first, and we will finish with the Tangier port, because Omar will send me and I will share it. Yeah.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see yours.
Just 1 second, because I cannot see the presenter notes myself. So it's strange, because I was in a meeting earlier and I could do it correctly, and now I don't know what's wrong. Just 1 second. I think if I do it like this, then it's gonna work. Okay.
Brilliant.
It should be working.
Okay.
Well, it works now.
So, first of all, thank you, Senija, for inviting me in this webinar. I'm always excited to talk about ports and how much diverse ecosystems they are, with different types of people living in ports and working there, and different cultures, and many historical elements going on, also related to sorry, I'm listening someone else talking. No? Okay. So anyway, as I said, I'm not focusing on a port, because what I'm going to present is more of a work in progress. So it's quite very in a very first stages, the topic that I am studying. So I'm going to talk about the role of maritime identity in enabling just and sustainable blue economies. Again, I am working at MaREI Center of University College Cork in Ireland. I'm based in Ireland. I'm a research fellow. And I'm also part of the coast action, and together with Senija, we also work on some other topics related to coastal communities and ports sustainability. So how my interest on this topic started? Actually, the idea of connecting maritime identity with just and sustainable blue economy started from a project that I was involved in, that examined the role of regions in maritime spatial planning. When reviewing key documents, I realized that at least in Ireland and France, boosting maritime identity was a strategic goal as part of maritime strategic development and promotion. So here we can see some parts of these strategies or policies in Ireland. As early as 2012, the first integrated maritime plan included various high-level goals, of which one of them was to strengthen maritime identity and increase awareness of the value and opportunities and social benefits of engaging with the seas. Then the more recent plan, again, strengthening the maritime identity was also part of the aims. Same in some regions in France. We would read how the regional maritime identity boosting would enable also the development of maritime policies and maritime plans, which eventually enable sustainable blue economy. It's funny because this text existed already before the EU communication on sustainable blue economy, which only was it was the result of the blue economy, blue growth strategy. that existed since 2012, I think, and the most recent version, which is about the sustainable blue economy in the EU, highlights again the need for a renewed ocean culture and a reconnection of citizens with the sea. And then a more recent document, the conclusions on sustainable blue economy in the role of regions, acknowledges the need to foster regional maritime identity and ocean literacy as foundation for local blue economy transitions. So that was kind of my, it inspired me, and I started wondering first of all, I wasn't so familiar with this term. I came across this term also in some workshops that we organized as part of that project, where there were the locals here in Ireland. It was focused here in Ireland. The locals were talking about cultural identity, their local identity. Then talking with some friends and some locals from here, I realized that indeed Ireland is not so famous about although they have a maritime heritage, they don't feel they have this maritime identity. If you compare it to countries, let's say from the south, where I come from Greece, we are a very maritime state. And we have most of our economy is connected to how we use the coasts and the seas. In contrast, it's funny how an island like Ireland, a country which is an island, and it's Ireland, they don't have so much connection, and it's only now developed, and they need strategies to kind of remind them about their maritime heritage and how this can be developed further. So for me, only this thing to study just in Ireland is already something very interesting that I would like to put forward. So then I have done some preliminary, let's say, research. I've tried to find some literature about the importance of maritime identity. First of all, the Global Blue Economy Agenda, either from the OECD or from even the EU, has gained enormous traction over the last decade, but it often remains a technocratic exercise focused on innovation, investment, and data efficiency. Yet the ocean is not just a space of production, it's also a space of meaning, memory, and belonging. What's missing in most blue economy frameworks is the recognition of maritime identity, the cultural and relational ties that connect people to the sea. It's not only about using the sea for economic development. Across diverse geographies, these identities have historically shaped how communities steward, understand, and sustain marine environments. So this project asks, what if we place maritime identity, which means the people's sense of living with the sea, at the heart of the blue economy conversation? Apparently, there have been some studies about this, especially in more developing communities, and how they are connected to the sea. But we need to study this more, especially now, as this has is really connected to how the blue economy should look like and should move from now and into the future. So on the other side, what I've seen many times is that the blue economy is judged a lot. You know, there's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of negativity, but the idea is that the sustainable blue economy has an optimistic aspect. Is it's trying to be good, you know. So to move beyond critiques, we need a coherent framework that connects identity, justice, and sustainability, repositioning the blue economy not just as an economic model, as many scholars who do this type of criticism, but as a social, ecological, and cultural system. So it's like 3 pillars, basically. And it's an approach that builds on 3 interlinked dimensions that shape how communities live with the sea. So the 3 pillars is their maritime identities, their participation and justice, and the transformative potential of the blue economy itself. The framework, yes. So this conceptual structure also helps bridge disciplines, linking social theory, governance, and policy with cultural and ecological insights. So as a highlight, as a keynote here is that this pillar help explain how belonging to the sea can become a driver for just and sustainable ocean futures. And this is how the idea of this research came up. So the first pillar, the maritime identity, which refers to cultural embeddedness and stewardship. To be honest, again, although I admit I came across this concept and I was also thinking about this concept myself, I admit that I am not coming from this background. So I suppose maybe some of you in the audience know a lot more. I'm just now trying to discover what is this, what it means, and how it's linked also to maritime heritage, and how it links also to the cultural heritage. So the first pillar, maritime identity, is about the deep-lived connection that coastal and island communities have with the sea, not just as a resource, but as part of who they are, who these communities are. Scholars describe this identity as relational and intergenerational. Built through everyday practices, work at sea and with the sea, and collective memory that bind people to marine environments. It aligns with ideas from place-based identity and relational values, that the sense of belonging and care that emerges when people define themselves through the places and ecosystems they inhabit. The ocean is seen not only as physical space, but as a moral and imaginative domain that shapes our understanding of connection and stewardship. I'm just now using some information that I found through some very preliminary literature review that I did. Across many coastal regions, we see this identity is expressed through rituals and festivals, such as the blessing of the field and local fishing ceremonies. I will show you some pictures that I found about this in the next slide. So identity here is not only about nostalgia or heritage. And to be honest, for me, in the beginning, I was thinking more about the maritime heritage element, which is supposed to be enough to create, to kind of present the maritime identity of communities, but apparently that's not enough. It's active ecological knowledge and social capital. It's how communities translate belonging into stewardship.
2 minutes left.
Okay, sorry, I'm going a bit fast. So here are 2 pictures. You see these festivals, like how they kind of connect not only like the activity itself, but then it has some ritual behind. So then the other pillar is justice and governance. So maritime identity can shape who participates, whose knowledge counts, and who benefits. As such, recognizes identity enhances legitimacy and trust in marine decision making. We know that justice and governance have been examined a lot from scholars related to blue economy, about inclusivity and about empowerment and redistribution. And for example, collaborative governance in some cases shows how cultural ties and place-based knowledge inform inclusive policy. What I want to say here is that when local communities are really connected to their maritime identity, then they feel more empowered and can represent themselves better, and so address this need for justice in governance. And then the blue economy between promise and paradox. What I said, we don't need only the critique, we also need the transformation narrative. So there are two different directions. I think we need to pick the innovation and inclusion based on the criticism that exists already in the literature. We build on this. We identify that there is a gap of including the justice part and the maritime cultural maritime identity elements, and enable the more optimistic narrative for the blue economy. So identity is the bridge between critique and transformation. This is what I say. Still, we need to prove that. So, as I said, it's a work in progress. So currently, I'm just collecting data. I just did this conceptual framework, which can be, of course, refined and enhanced. I aim to do some case study comparison. Of course, this could fit also as part of the cost action that we are, many of us are involved. It could be a topic that we, for those who are interested, we could develop together. It could be also a little project that we could make a proposal. I'm interested in port cities. I mean, we could easily only focus on port cities, because for me, I also grew up in a port. I always lived in ports, and I find the port ecosystems very, very, very interesting. Some activities could be shipping, other maritime activities, tourism, energy transitions, and how these are connected to traditional livelihoods and other elements, local justice movements, heritage, etc. And then some other research questions: how can policy makers practically integrate maritime identity in blue economy strategies? It looks like they want it there, but then there's not so much going on in these documents, apart from saying, oh, let's boost it. What metrics or indicators could capture cultural connection to the sea? How can justice and identity be translated into local sustainable blue economy strategies? And any other questions? So I'm open also to receive more questions from you, and how we could probably shape together also this topic. I think that was it from me. Thank you for your attention. Sorry, Senija, if I was a little bit late. So yeah, that's it from my side.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. It reminded me of the work we do. We were doing in Italy. So like when you mentioned this, was very, very empowering for our own research we are going together.
Yes, and we had a discussion about this, remember, in Lesbos. We were saying about exactly this, how some countries, they have this so apparent, and some countries should have, but they don't. They don't look like that, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I never thought about Ireland being one of those. Like just for Omar, I still can't see. I don't have the access to your Google Drive. So if you can just try to share it again in some other ways, like, or just as no, it's working. It's working now. It's working now. Brilliant. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Also, Omar, you are muted now. How do we unmute you? Omar?
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Thank you. I apologize.
No
Okay,
worries.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So just a point. Now we are moving to Africa.
Okay, we are in the north of Morocco.
Yeah.
So I begin by give you a great thanks to invite me. I'm very glad to be here to listen, to learn, and to share. Before beginning, I would apologize because I will read the text that accompanies my presentation. It is more comfortable for me. And by the way, I will spare you my poor English. I apologize. In my talk, I would like to have a look at the development of the Tangier Med industrial and port complex to show how it has grown and what effect it had on surrounding territory. Industrial port complex are closely linked to the idea of sustainable blue economies, which is the subject of your webinar, for two main reasons. First, they bring together many activities, maritime activities, but also many industries that are not mainly related to connected to the maritime, such as metallurgy, chemical, food, and other industries. Second, public port policies play a major role in sustainability. They involve one, strategic port planning, two, integration of ports into regional and national development policies, and three, environmental and social regulation for maritime activities. Why does it matter? Because on the one hand, industrial port complexes have major direct impact, environmental and social. Adriana mentioned that in the beginning of her presentation. On the other hand, they also generate wider urban and demographic changes around them. To deal with this complexity, international organizations have promoted an integrated governance approach, which is called integrated coastal zone management. The idea is that countries are encouraged to think about ports and industrial development in a more integrated way. Combining land and sea concerns to ensure a more sustainable and balanced approach to coastal areas. This approach requires conditions between four sectors, what we see in the right. Port and industrial planning, urban development, biodiversity protection, and climate resilience. In my presentation, I will focus on the first two. For the two last ones, I'm not qualified to do this. I will use this framework to look at how Tangier Med complex has been developed, to highlight some questions and raise a few issues for the future. I will focus on two periods that have shaped the port landscape in northern Morocco in Tangier, from the early 20th century to the 19th, and from 2007 onwards with the rise of Tangier Med. The port of Tangier started to be developed as a real port during the period of the international zone period. In 1921, a French concession, La Société de Port de Tangier, was created to build, maintain, and operate the port. What you see in the map on the left, in red, that is all what was made at that period. In the blue, what is in the blue was done in the early of the century, 20th century. 10 years after the independence of Morocco in 1955, the concession ended, so that from 1967 to 1985, the port was placed under the authority of the Casablanca port. During this period, there were no major infrastructure developments, but the port did receive better handling equipment. After 1985, with the creation of a national institution or office d'exploitation des ports, the port improved its equipment further and a passenger terminal was added. I'm talking about the Tangier ports. As a result, from the mid-18th through the 19th, the port of Tangier became Morocco's leading passenger port and also the leading port of international road transport by trucks. Meanwhile, Casablanca, the port of Casablanca, remained the country's main container port. In the early 19th, Morocco authorities started discussing the idea of creating a container port in the north, in the south of Tangier. This became the Tangier Atlantic port. First, it was thinked in the Atlantic side. In 1997, a preliminary plan was even produced by the Ministry of Transport, but in 2002, the official announcement came: a new Mediterranean port would be built. It will be Tangier Med. I will come to that back. By the end of the 19th, the Tangier city port was fully specialized in truck-based freight and passenger transport, but it was already saturated, and the city surrounding it made any expansion extremely difficult. At the same time, the port supported the young export-oriented industry in the region, which has emerged in the late 18th, especially in the industrial zone of MaREI emerged, which were located at the time very far from the town. What was happening in the city during this time? Tangier has already grown significantly. Its surface multiplied by 4 between the early 16th and 18th. What you see here, I'm pointing with the pointer. You see that in the left. The bay of Tangier was still relatively preserved. You see here. The bay of Tangier was relatively preserved, I was saying, from heavy construction, and the expansion of the time was moving mainly southward, more often in an informal way. To the west, development was limited by the mountains. But by the late of the 19th and early 2000s, urbanization had spread across half of the bay. You see that in the map on my right. And the city's population had risen by about 18%, which is huge, very huge, in just 20 years. Now, let's move to the second period with the emergence of Tangier Med. It's important to note that this port is a part of a broader industrial development strategy, a policy to diversify the Moroccan economy. With this policy, Tangier was chosen to host emerging sectors tied to the automotive industry, mainly cable manufacturing and car assembly, and to a less extent to aeronautics, which remained mostly in Casablanca. This is why the Tangier Free Zone, you see here, it is located here, was created in 1997, as I have shown. It quickly attracted many foreign companies. Most of their production was destined for European car manufacturers. At first, the export went through the Tangier city port until Tangier Med took over. The port was so successful that it reached full capacity earlier than expected, which led to the opening of Tangier Med 2 in 2009. Around the same time, Renault car industries opened its plant near the port in 2012. This greatly increased the demand for new industrial zones, since the Tangier Free Zone was already saturated. I will show that in a photo. The photo shows the situation, geographic situation in 2014. All the lots in the duty-free zone had already been acquired by the companies. Some were not yet built up on that at that time, but 6 years later, you see that in the photo on your right, it is fully operational. What about the city? It expanded rapidly towards the east, filling the rest of the bay. You can see that here. Do you hear me? I was saying, I was talking about the expansion of the town, and the population has increased by 35% in just 10 years. Urban policy reacted late, trying to correct the negative effect through the Tangier Metropole project. I show it here. As for the old port of the city, it has undergone a real transformation, and it is now mainly dedicated to tourism with marina, cruise terminal, and short-term tourism from Spain via the Tarifa-Tangier line. This whole industrial port dynamic had led to major territorial imbalance. Three points deserve particular attention. First, the new industrial base that emerged in less than 25 years is now concentrated within a 13-kilometer radius around Tangier, as you see here. Second, Tangier Med and Renault, both major players in Morocco's economy, are located in a mainly rural province, one of the poorest in the region. I'm talking about Fas Anjra, in this location. Third point, the city has expanded, as you see in the white boundaries, have expanded considerably since the beginning of the 2000s. To conclude, I would like to stress 3 points. First, a simple fact for me, the Tangier Med industrial and port complex has become geographically very large. It covers now all the industrial and free zones located between Tangier Atlantic here and the Mediterranean coast near Tétouan here. But it also created a strong imbalance with heavier pressure on the Tangier side, as I have said a few minutes ago. Second point, two hypotheses that still need deeper studies. The first is that the coordination between urban planning and industrial planning has often been weak through the development of the complex. The second hypothesis is that coordination between port planning and industrial planning is also unclear for me. Looking at the evolution over time, it often feels as if these decisions were made step by step, navigation à vue, like we say in French.
2 more minutes, Omar, 2 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. These questions, as well as others not discussed today, will be part of a book to be published in 2026 with my colleagues Yolande Benaroche, who's attending with us in this webinar, and Professor Froment. The final point, and looking for the future, we can wonder by asking the question, to what extent the authorities learned from the experience of Tangier Med and the Tangier region in order to address the changes of the new industrial port complex. I think it's okay for my presentation. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you so much, Omar. So this is great that we finished with the Tangier Med, because there is so much expansion which we need to discuss how to do this in a proper way. And if you have any questions, just let us know. And we're a bit late because of the some technical challenges, but why don't we just simply start with the questions from the audience, because I have a lot of questions for each of the presenters, but I don't want to take the time. So I would first ask the audience and thank the audience for being here. And if anyone would like to ask a question or discuss, or the presenters between themselves, because I can see so many links between your presentations. And shall anyone raise the hand first? No? Yes? No? No one is raising a hand. How come? Adri, go ahead. Be the first one.
Thank you. Actually, I have a question for Adriane, which presented first. I saw that the port in Belgium wasn't in a coastal area, was like in a delta or tidal area, which was inland actually. So let's say that the impacts, environmental impacts, are even huger, as you presented, and also closer to a habitat, Natura 2000, all this. I'm a bit shocked, let's say, how a member of the European Union can think to enlarge a port which already has a huge impact. I wanted to ask if in the meantime, do they have any best practice that they do from the environmental point of view to reduce pollution, all this, or from social impacts they have? I mean, do they have a basis, like something that they do with the best available technique to which they base to enlarge their activity? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Ali. I'm gonna try to explain it as far as which from the parts I know. I think with the case of the Port Antwerp, which they really rely on, was the pre-existence of the port before the Natura 2000. So kind of like the port exists for centuries and it's operating there. So it's kind of this narrative of the economic importance of the port always comes first in all communications and public policy. They're really like, it's kind of a really strategic, okay, but like the port needs to exist. It's already here for centuries. And there's this economic importance. And in terms, so what happened was just like the port and this expansion was already happening in the 60s for the 90s was the base. And Natura 2000 was actually implemented just after. So kind of was, in these terms, they give it a leverage to the ports itself, because the water was already existing. It enters, like it converts with Natura 2000, but to the existing areas, kind of, it was like, oh, it's already existed, so it spread. And then it goes a little bit with, I was saying a little bit after about the green disposition. What happened was just like the part of the polders, kind of, that turns to be Natura 2000 were displaced, like the polders that were left was placed in name of the Natura 2000. But that we mean about the green disposition. So it's like in the end, they try to prioritize, or like there's this green discourse that in the end doesn't rely or doesn't take account of the social factors. And in terms of like, oh, what they count a bit or not. So in this sense, the Port of Antwerp has a really like strong environmental discourse. And really, when you talk to them, when you see the variables of like the impacts they're trying to do or not, or the compensations they're trying to do, they put themselves as one of the greenest ports and more open to, and comparing to other cases is true. So they have really like pro-mediated open conversation. But then I think the question is it enough, and how much we or the localized impacts are actually being taken into account. So I don't know if actually this answers as much your question. Yeah, and I think the last note on this is just like, I think to historical ports, they really rely on the fact, at least of the importance region in Europe and the fact they already exist. So I think in literature, it's also like there's this path dependency that's created on the city relying only on the port. And this allows for like things like this happen.
Thank you. And that's great. Who else has a question? I was seeing some hands raised up recently. I think Sylvia was raising her hand, but Jawad, yes, go for it. It's muted for some reason. No, you're not. You're not muted, but I can't hear you. We can't hear you. The microphone might be disabled or something, some technical challenge. That happens when we do online webinars. It might be much better when we do the webinars in person. We won't have those kinds of challenges. So you can probably write it down on the chat, so that could be helpful. So anyone else has a question from the audience? I can't see anyone's head.
Yeah, Joe does.
Joe.
Well, you can read this way.
Jawad, what strategies and best practices exist for integrating ports into sustainable coastal tourism planning? For whom is the question? Which one of those of the presenters? It's for whom? All of them, or so? Just if anyone wants to answer this question. So who would like to answer the question of each of you? Yeah, if anyone, I think Omar was also talking about expansion of Rula. Yeah. Yeah. A question for Rula.
Can you hear me? So actually, this is quite a general question. I mean, there must be some guidelines from the EU, probably, about how to combine basically ports and tourism. So it's like combining two different blue economy sectors. I know there are guidelines for other kinds of sectors, also with regard to nature protection and other blue economy activities. So one source to find this is at that level, at EU level, but then you need to define what level you are looking for. If it's specific in Antwerp or in Tangier, or specific ports, then, you know, if it's some local strategy or if it's some national one, it's quite general. But if you start with a high level, I'm pretty sure at you know, like a UN or EU level, there might be some reports or documents that where you can find that kind of information. So I just direct you where to search. But yeah, best practices except for integrating. I mean, sustainability is an interest for both. So I guess when they find the common ground there, you know, how they both can benefit from a more sustainable development, I think this then will kind of help them merge. But yeah, maybe the people who talked about ports more specifically can give you some more information about that.
Yeah, this is the best answer, like to show like where to look for it, which reports to look for, and to see like whether it's a binding or non-binding or just advisory or something what is binding. That's something what is also relevant and important to take into connection here. So anyone else has a question? Yes, Omar? Yeah, to answer the question. Yeah, Omar?
Okay. I'm reacting for Mr. Jawad. It is difficult for me to respond directly, to answer directly, but I can observe that in the case of Tangier, which was a real touristic town before the 2000s, but with the industrialization and the Tangier Med port, we no longer know whether its identity is it a tourist town or an industrial town. That's the feeling that we have. And it is about perhaps identity, like Zacharoula said in her presentation, and it is a matter of what identity marketing would do the town to bring what tourists or industrial actors or both. It is more a great question than a good answer. Thank you.
Yeah, that's definitely something for to take forward. So Jawad now is like where to look for the information, and maybe to search for how is what is the frame and what is the identity of Tangier, tourism city or in the industrial city, and how do those two talk to each other, those two sectors? It's a beautiful topic, and it's really pretty much the core of blue economy, and that's why I was really grateful that for the first time I was able to invite somebody from Tangier, and Professor Omar say yes, why not? Why not? So. In the case, like if there are not any more further questions, like as I said, like I'm adding 15 minutes extra. I was supposed to finish at 2 o'clock, but you know, time just flies when you are listening to very interesting conversations and very beautiful minds. So this is just great that we can follow further. And if there are no any more questions, I will just conclude that starting from Antwerp and having the examples on Tangier and actually putting it all on actually this core question: what is the maritime identity? What's the port identity? Is there a maritime community? There is so much questions and so much thoughts, which probably we are all now having in our minds, starting from Antwerp, which is actually having very similar discussion as about the maritime identity, and as Tangier, and then somehow summarized everything with Rula's presentation on what is the maritime identity, and it's important for really rethinking the blue economy. It really gets into the core of rethinking the blue economy, and this is our COST project, all about this particular topic. So I just don't know how to thank you for presenting it forward to us, motivating us to study harder, And really, I just want to thank to the cost Cooperation of Science and Technology for enabling us to have this platform where we can discuss the topics so pertinent to any further developments of our societies. So without any further ado, it's 2:15. If there are no more questions, I look forward to seeing you soon at one of other events, either online or offline. And it was really great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And special thanks to Adriane, Omar, and Rula for really motivating us and to go further. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.